And 3 and 2 and 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool. And we're going to have a guest joining us here in a bit, Jonathan. And I'm excited about this. I've been poring over their blog and the Googles to learn a little bit more about our guest. And I even posted about it in the group.
Nice.
Gave a little teaser in the group there. And yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm really excited to kind of reveal that one book title that we've talked about. I won't say it yet, but they got both our attention. We're like, whoa, that's a title. That's a good title.
I know. And it hooked me. I mean, to the point where like, I'm going to buy, well, we won't, that's all we'll say. We won't, we'll tell more about it, but yeah, it's a good one. We've got a great guest coming on. We're going to be talking about social media engagement and the power of influence through that. And probably a little bit of copywriting too, because I gather from this, there's some copywriting takeaways from this that listeners can learn.
It would seem so, yes. So it should be interesting. Like quite the background. It makes me feel very unaccomplished in my life. So that's the kind of guest you want, right? That just like make you feel completely
That's right.
humbled and So
you know what they say: surround yourself by people that have done great things. So.
Yeah. They say that, don't they? But nobody likes it. Nobody likes to be there.
There's a former Army vet too. So
okay.
Yeah.
So, did not know that. Where did I didn't see that. Oh yeah, that's right. I think I remember seeing that on the about page. So
all right, so we teased it enough. We're going to be talking some really cool persuasion and social media.
Yep.
And using that to build your engagement and your followers. But first, before he joins us, there's a reason why we went ahead and jumped ahead. I don't think he's going to be having a beer with us, but we're going to go ahead and start. And he's going to be joining us here in about probably another 10 minutes. So we'll get started. Before we do that, Sean.
Yeah.
I got to I got to make an adjustment here.
Uh-oh. And I'm always just filling time for you. Got to turn off the old air conditioning unit because it's loud in his ear. So anyway, so look, if you're on the Facebooks, let's see, was it difficult? So I can't read who the comments are. If you haven't at some point let StreamYard sync up with your Facebook, it doesn't pass the name through to StreamYard. So I'm guessing this is Joe DeRoma just because he mentioned me as the ice cream man. So, keep an eye on those comments there. But
the ice cream man.
Oh yeah, I did a training, marketing secrets of the ice cream man. So
okay,
yeah, we saw a book of our guest about sobriety, so we figured maybe he's not going to be drinking. It's kind of part of his background. So he
might have a beverage, but I doubt it'll be alcohol. So
doubt it, probably not. So who wants to go first?
I'll let you, because you teased it with a pretty interesting one. I'm not sure I have all that interesting, so I'm going to let you go first.
Well, I tell you, I was looking for a very specific beer this weekend, and I just could not find it. Finally found this, which is close. So I'm kind of on a Scotch ale kick right now.
Ooh,
so it's kind of like you get the gravity of the stouts and porters and things like that, but you get it with an ale. So I'm really liking the Scotch ale. So today I have a 903 Brewers, which is here local in kind of the Texas area here. And it's called Wee Heavy. And it's got a nice picture of a kilt, right?
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool. I love that.
Kilt and switch. And it doesn't have an alcohol content, but most of the Scotch ales are pretty heavy. So
8 to 10 somewhere in there.
It's probably 8 to 10, definitely. I've just been enjoying the Scotch ales lately. Like I said, it's not quite as heavy as like a porter or stout or imperial porter. So, but you still get the kick.
I give it a 5 just for the can alone. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is a cool can. And I got like 3 different Scotch ales, and then I got a bourbon barrel ale over the weekend. So I'll bring out another one of those. But yeah, just kind of nice amber color. All kinds
Looks
of
good
glare.
to me. Looks a lot better than what I have.
Yeah. So what do you have?
So I have another from Cigar City. So the last one I had from Cigar City was not that great. So
not great.
I'm going down the list. Today I've got a Belgium style white ale. So it's still going to be on the light side.
Yeah.
5.5%. But this one is unique because I'd never heard this term before, or this name, because it's actually based off something. I'm like, when I first picked it up, it's a let me switch back over to the screen here. It is a Florida cracker.
That's a light can too.
Yeah.
It's got a definitely got a beachy vibe going on.
It does.
Yeah. Very beachy.
So it is a Florida cracker. So I'm like, this is probably getting canceled anytime now with the word cracker in it. So it'll soon be, the name will soon change. But I was like, what in the world is a Florida cracker? But it's actually named after cowboys. Did you know this? It's like the original European settlers of Florida were rustic. See, I didn't know there were any cowboys in Florida, but apparently some early European settlers were rustic cattle ranchers called cowboy or cracker cowboys. And they were hardworking cowhands that helped to introduce cattle ranching. Wow. And of all places, Florida. What?
I tell you what, though, so when Sydney rode horses, she had a horse show. One of the biggest horse shows in the country is in Ocala, Florida.
Yeah.
Which is right in the middle of Florida. Like there's nothing there, but yeah. And there's ranches all through there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like driving through parts of Texas. Like there's these huge ranches in the middle of Florida. It's just nobody goes to the middle of Florida. So you don't know they're there.
Right.
Unless you're going to the big mousetrap or people trap.
You just don't think about it.
Yeah. Because everybody goes to the edges of Florida.
Right. Absolutely.
Or Orlando. That's different.
Ocala is a pretty cool place, though. I've been to there a few times. Yeah. So
as long as you don't go in the summer.
I got to show you this. It's light, just like I told you.
Looks like a white ale.
Yep.
All right. So we cheers.
Cheers. Let's see.
Didn't even hold it up to the screen. That's all right.
I didn't. Oops. I clanked a glass over here.
That's good.
All right. Thoughts?
It's really good. I mean, it's got I don't know if you've had many Scotch ales, but they've got almost like a little bit of a malt liquor type taste to it. Like they've got that little extra fizz or something to it. I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So I have to look up, I have to do some research on Scotch ales and like why they have the flavor and what all's in them.
So give it a score.
But really good. I'd say I give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty strong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give this one a 3, like a 3.2.
Pretty good.
3. Yeah, it's pretty solid. I like it. It's light. I tell you, on these hot summer days, it's perfect. So I have a hard time, especially on a day that you work out in the afternoon, and as hot as it is, I know it's probably 90 degrees there in Texas, but
it's 100.
You come in, and the last thing you drink something like a heavy stout or something, it just sits on you. So
yeah, it's 100 today. I went out for my 5-mile walk at like 10 a.m.
Yeah,
and it was 94.
Oh god,
10 a.m. So yeah, it was rough.
All right. So, by the way, just to let our audience know, because we didn't do this last time, our rating is brought to you by our friends over at the Original Craft Beer Club. And if you want to learn more, you can visit them over at persuasionbythepint.com/craft beer. Sean, you've ordered your first. Have you?
Have not received the goods yet. Have not received the goods yet. I'm looking forward to it. I'm very nervous though, because like it's a signature required because it's alcohol.
Sure.
So I'm like, I'm going to be in the bathroom when they come, and then they're going to take it back to wherever they take it back to.
Right.
Like, so it's best if you have an office to deliver it to, somebody that's manned or whatever. But I mean, most people are home right now, but
absolutely.
I'm afraid my doorbell's on the link, so I have to get a ring so I can get my beer delivered on time. But yeah, they said it takes like 10 to 15 days to get the first shipment, and then it's every month after that. It's fine.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, hopefully by next week or the next couple episodes, so we'll have something to look forward to. Yep. But I believe our guest is in the studio. He's in the green room waiting. So we need to
fancy that we have a green room. I mean, thank you, StreamYard, that we have a green room. That's so cool.
All right, so let me pull up our special guest today.
Do you have his walkout music?
Oh, I've got some good walk-up music. I've got the perfect music for you, Ed. Sean and I are probably quite a bit older than you, but we got the perfect Eye of the
Tiger. It's a classic, man. You can't go wrong with that one.
Oh, you can't.
No, you absolutely cannot. Yeah. No, Ed is 15 years younger than us.
Are you no kidding, man? Being a man is awesome. You guys are 50?
Just right at it, yeah. So
no kidding.
I'm 49.
And I'm black too. So like I'm gonna look like this forever. Holy hell.
That's awesome. Jealous.
John, you weren't supposed to give that away. You don't want to give too much away there.
Yeah, well, you know. I did go with the haircut though.
Yeah.
Going with the shaved look. So yeah.
Normally we give our guests Ed, we give them an applause, but for you, so we got to introduce Ed. He's a former heavyweight boxer, and you got quite the record. Sean and we were looking at some of your stats.
We're doing some Googling.
You were like 13-1-1. I mean, that's pretty.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and then that was my pro career as an amateur. I had a bit more fights. Everyone always remembers the pro career, and rightfully so. That's the one that gets like the television attention and where you earn money. That's nice too.
Right.
But you were what was it, 41-11 amateur?
Yeah, wow. No, almost no one finds that stat. Yeah, that is awesome. 41-11 as an amateur. I got an amateur national title. Wins over some pretty big names now. But that was over 8 years ago. When I turned pro, almost 8 years ago. So it's just one of those things, kind of feather in the cap, great experience. Yes. No one can ever. It's one of those things that like I'm happy I did it. When I did it, because you can't like turn back the clock and be like, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start fighting today. Like, nah, man. Like I don't want to fight now, and I know what it's like. So I couldn't imagine someone trying to be like at 35. You know, I'm going to do a new hobby, boxing. Nah, man.
So not going back, huh?
No. I think as a fighter, you always go. You never 100% retired. I'll like realistically, I'm sure I'll be effing 50 talking about. You know what? let me see if I can get my way to where a certain thing, or maybe I got nothing better to do. But the reality is, the opportunity cost is way too great. What keeps a lot of guys fighting is they don't have as many alternatives as I think I've been able to generate for myself. And so it just makes no sense for me to go back. In fact, when I was trying to, I took a year off after I lost, and I used that to finish college and do some other stuff. And when I was coming back and training, I got hurt again. Right. And my coach was like, what the hell are you doing? Have you looked at your life? You don't need to be here anymore. and for my coach to say that, someone with a vested kind of financial interest in me competing, he's like, do you realize like I'm your friend, man? You don't have to do this anymore. Like you've done something that a lot of fighters don't do, and that's created greater opportunity cost somewhere else.
Yeah. I heard you say something on a podcast. I think yesterday I was doing a little research, and I found a video on YouTube on a podcast that you said it was actually pretty amazing, but you said like 90 to 95% of professional boxers, when they get out of it, they end up having to do something. I mean, they actually have to work because you have this idea that like professional boxers, they get out and they're made for the rest of their life, right?
Hardly, man. Look, and that stat you're referring to, I wish I had come up with it or researched it, but it was the great Carl Froch, one of the great middleweights out of I think the UK is where Froch is from. But I think he wrote a book, and that's where that came from. He did some research and talked to his buddies and stuff and everything, and most of us why that's believable, if you're not familiar with the economics of the sport, is like everyone sees guys like Mayweather or freaking, Klitschko lately, like Joshua and Wilder, and they see the top. And even those guys, like outside of like the real superstars, they're not making as much money as you think. For example, I think like I know some guys who fought Anthony Joshua. I know them personally, and I know what they get. One guy got $3 million, and one guy got $500,000. And that sounds like a lot of money until you remember that, like right off the bat, before you see anything, depending on your setup. And I think I had a pretty fair setup, so I'm going to use mine as an example. You're paying your trainer 12, your manager 13, so a quarter of that is gone immediately, right? Yep. And then, Uncle Sam, he gonna cut your ass twice. Once in the state you fought in, and then once in the state you live in. And again, when the state you live in. And
okay, so you get it
federal and the state level.
So if you fight in up in or like out in Nevada, you got to pay Nevada state tax.
Absolutely. A lot of people, there's just so many interesting things about the economics of boxing that people don't get. One of the reasons why when Anthony Joshua fought Andy Ruiz Jr., they did it in Saudi Arabia, as they don't have an entertainment tax in Saudi Arabia. Right. So automatically the gate is that much bigger, even if the same amount of people bought in for the first fight. Yeah. So there's not a lot of money, and that's at the top. Down it does not trickle down. It is very much a tournament game, almost zero sum, except we're not really competing with the other cards. Like the main event gets this much, and the co-main event doesn't get nearly as much, and then the undercard gets almost nothing. Like, and then guys, and that's the other thing people forget. When you see a fight on TV, you're seeing a main event, a co-main event, and then like 4 undercards. But there's like 12 other fights that day. Yeah, that's just what makes it on TV. And then the TV money gets involved. Most of that stuff, you're looking at guys realistically, not without being on television, probably not even making higher than mid 4 figures. And then once they get on TV, if they're not a main event or a co-main, not making more than 5 low 5 figures. Mm-hmm. And co-main, depending on the network, we're still looking at 5 figures. You don't start seeing 6 until you are fighting for a belt, unless you're heavyweight. Heavyweight is like the only division where you can make a good amount of money and not be fighting for a title. And then how often do you fight for a title? The belt holder only fights once a year. Like, absolutely. So it's a rough sport. The point of all that is that if you have an opportunity to go do something else, a lot of guys, they take it and run with it. I always can tell who's ever gloved up and who hasn't because of how they ask me. Why the guys that have never gloved up before, they ask, so why'd you quit with only 1 loss? And I'm like, if you could just look at my life now compared to fighting, it would make sense. Guys who have fought before, they usually say something like, what made you decide to hang it up? How did you know it was time to stop coming to the gym? Guys are, why'd you quit? I'm like, you know what I mean? No quitting, man.
Right. Yeah. You didn't quit. You're just focusing on something else, right?
On something else where I don't have to get my bell rung, man. Like people, that's another thing. We're just at this point talking about the kind of behind the scenes of boxing, things that people don't get. It's like everything hurts. Like the shots that do the damage are the ones that disrupt your central nervous system. Those are the ones that make your legs wobble, make you get knocked out. Or if you get, you take a really, really painful shot to the body, that kind of puts you down. But if you get put down by a body shot, you probably are going to go to the ER because you likely have organ damage or a broken rib. But everything hurts, blocks, all that. It's painful. And what happened to me with my second concussion, and one when I came back and my coach was like, what are you doing? So when I realized the cost, because I wasn't doing much with my life for most of my boxing career outside of boxing. But at that point, I had started as a side hustle that grew into something greater. I started tutoring kids because my degree was in physics, so that means I know all this math, and that is a great like I got put on with a great school district where parents were all 6-figure earners and they could afford my rate. And it was great. No. But I was sitting there after I was doing a problem with the kid, and it was constructed a polynomial from the roots. Most people know, most people think about doing it the other way around, where you get a polynomial and you find the roots, what makes it equal 0, and you figure out where, but we're done the other way around. And I remember just staring at this shit going, I don't know if I can swear, my bad. I remember staring at this stuff going, man, I know, like I've done this before, but I just can't remember how. And every time I try, it makes my head hurt. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, this is bad. That's when I really started to become conscious of the pain. I'm actually writing a series on my website about this, because I continue to get the same questions about boxing. I'm like, okay, well, I may as well answer them. Great for content. People seem to be interested. And I think it'll make people understand that boxing is not like the NFL. It's not like the NBA. It's not like the NHL or the MLB. There ain't no pension. The money sucks. There's no guaranteed pay. What you do get paid. Most fighters I know have to work a job. I was no different. I worked at a bank for the first part of my pro career, and then I was in the military for the second part. And then I was fortunate because I had such a good amateur career, and I was with a good coach that was networked, where I got signed relatively early in my career, so I was able to earn something. I could make my rent at least off of fight wages, and that's not an exaggeration on how tough the game is.
Wow, that's wild. So how has it? You're also a competitive chess player.
Oh, I love chess.
But the word, a lot of people like chess, but on your website it says competitive chess player.
You see that in the background? That's a queen, and these are chess books for when I'm studying. You can see, the chess, right?
Oh, nice.
But I spend a lot of time. I pay for a coach, and really helped me improve my game. I go to tournaments. Well, now all the tournaments are virtual, but it's a great excuse to travel to another city to play a chess tournament. Because it's 2 games a day, and it's exhausting. It's not like a boxing match. I'm not going to be acting out of gills. Oh, you know what? It's more exhausting than fighting. No. Nothing. But it's exhausting. I can't do anything but what I do that day if I play, over the board long games.
Yeah, I totally get that. I mean, writing is the same way, and you're also you've got some books out, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Is you've got some books out, and Jonathan sent me your website, and I was looking through it, and then he texted me. He's like, "Did you see this book title?" And I was like, "That's a good title. That is awesome."
I just bought the book based on the title alone. I mean, that's
awesome, man. That is the skills you learn marketing. I was not always so good at naming things, and I get fortunately when you're really working to improve, this is what I found. When you're working to get better at something and people see that you're serious, help tends to find you. Mm-hmm. And I remember one night I was just working on not caring what other people think is a superpower. It was not called that yet. The original title was The Quotable Boxer. And now I hear how terrible that sounds. Like you're hearing it, right? I thought it was cool. Someone reached out to me. He now doesn't have his website anymore. He's went another way. I don't know if you're familiar with the personality known as Victor Prod. But he's big in the man side, the manosphere kind of male self-improvement space. And he sent me a message. He said, it's a shame you have such a great Twitter and you write so well, but you're shit at naming things. I had another book before that called Twitter Poems and Insights, and he sent me that, and he's like, "That's the best you could come up with," and he's like, "Anything is better than this." And so at that point, he really. But because this is someone I was aware of the success that he had from behind the scenes. Like I knew someone that knew him, so I know he wasn't just a personality out there. So I really sat and absorbed what he gave me and gave me a lot of ideas, and it really helped me get to be comfortable with my my personality and the way I think and putting stuff out there. So then comes the name of Not Caring, and after that, the book you're probably referring to, The Engagement Is the New Cocaine. Funnily enough, he didn't give me that title. I wrote, there's an article on my website, How to Wake Up Earlier, and you know, when I wrote that, I just had a line in there: engagement is the new caffeine. Yeah. Let that sit, right? He read the article, read it, he goes, you know what, if you came up with a book about social media and titled it that, it would be a huge seller. And I said, cool. Just took that, tucked it in my brain, went on about my business. Almost 2 years later, I come back, and now I'm a lot better at this titling, naming thing. And I had this idea in my head: engagement is the new cocaine, not caffeine. Same scheme. And then now I can come up with better imagery too to really cop people. Like, really look at that cover. That's not an accident. I really got lucky in that I have a big Twitter following. So I just said, hey, anyone out there good at graphic design? I got a job. I'm bidding. Let's see what you guys come up with. And I actually remember the exact moment I got that image. I was in Dulles on my way. I found this great discount flight to Morocco. I'm running through this space age looking airport. It's like all vertical and shit. But I'm running up an escalator, and I'm still looking at my phone. My girl's freaking out, like, can you pay attention? I was like, no, you got to see this, man. This dude drew a guy snorting Twitter birds for the title of my book. This is great. Right? Like, I can't believe this.
And oh, wow. I didn't even like notice it was the bird.
I got to show, I'm going to share my screen because I got to get people to see this here. Let's see.
Yeah, I see that now. I didn't even realize that. Wow, that's cool. Didn't even see that.
Let's see. Here we go.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Can you zoom in on it? Can you, with your, there you go, the old Mac. Yeah, that's a great,
and cool? That's a cool cover.
And the kind of the shadowy look too. I mean, that's good graphic design right there for sure.
Yeah, you know, and he ended up doing a few of my other covers as well. And so I was just, well, he sold me on that. You know, there you go. Let that be a lesson to any budding entrepreneurs. You always do a great job, because that job becomes your calling card, because then you get, you know, people are asking who came up with that and who did that, because I have, you know, I don't want to say no artistic ability, but no is probably the best way to say it. No artistic ability. But I think I'm better than average with words. So I'm just describing to him what I see in my head for this cover, because I could see it, but I couldn't recreate it with my hand. Right. And he was able to take the idea. We went through a few, and that was, I was like, that one right there.
Yeah. That's always a cool feeling when you get that, like that kind of fuzzy idea that's in your head, and then somebody else can put it like,
it's magic, man. Yeah. Like, and even more magical than it coming out of your brain and then existing in reality is then when it makes money. Like, that's like alchemy. Alchemy. That's exactly what it is, man. Like, that was a thought, and then it became real, and then it turned into, you know, a way to finance my life and travels.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. So how did you get into kind of this world of persuasion, you know, social media? I mean, you've got a pretty broad skill set. So you're an athlete, you're a chess player, you're physics, so you know math. That, like,
it's a good talent.
Yeah, that doesn't usually go with writing typically.
It does not. Well,
so where did the writing come from? Or like,
you know, Final Fantasy, man. I love video games.
That's not the answer I was expecting.
well, the thing that got me into the idea of writing in general is I originally wanted to write fiction. I'm still working on my fiction as well, but that is where it started. The old RPGs where you had to sit there and read the text, and then that's how the story was told. And I said, how is this any different than a book? In fact, when I was in school, I got away with, I mean, they thought they were books because, you know, whatever, right? But I got away with doing book reports on video games. But they were RPGs, and they were if you took all the text out and lined it up, you'd have a book.
Yeah, it's got an arc, it's got a story, it's got all that stuff. Yeah.
All right. So that's where that came from initially. And then I've always enjoyed what good prose does, how it draws a person in, how it works without you being there.
Yeah.
How it allows you to take the jumbled mess of thoughts or experiences in your head and organize them in a way that another person can interact with them and get your perspective, see what you're looking at, see how you've come to your conclusion. And that's for other people. We haven't even talked about what it does for you and the clarity of your thought process. So all of these things come together, and then I just but you can't just be good at writing. I mean, I guess you know some people can, but you got to be like really good.
Yeah.
But I think what ended up happening to me is I spent all of this other time developing or really just experiencing and kind of figuring this thing out along the way called life, and that gives you a lot of experiences, lessons, perspectives to draw from, distill, and then put into words for other people to read. Like if you read through my blog, I mean, everything is something I've experienced. There were very few just here's some random stuff I decided to write because I think you'll learn from it. And even if I do go that route, I have to have some skin in the game, you know, personal stories, pictures, etc. All I've done is take my life and put it in the words, and that makes me even better and better and better. Because what you also learn, because SEO forces you to learn, is if you want to have any success, you need to learn SEO. And when you learn SEO, what you really learn is that it's just a way for the computer to figure out what you mean. Now, fortunately, we live in the machine learning era, and now you don't have the keyword stuff for the computer to know what you're talking about, so you can focus on being a good, organized, structured writer. And that has benefited me immensely as well, really learning how to make the computer understand me. And you know, we benefit because now computers read like people, and that's cool. Physics is also, you know, surprisingly, the math, no connection whatsoever, right? But the physics that the math is used for, that has made my vocabulary that much better. And I don't mean it's added like more words to my lexicon. No, I mean, like, sure, maybe like I probably know some more science terms than the average person, but what it's done is it's given me an appreciation for precision. Because the things that we interchange normally in colloquial conversation, you can't do in physics. I can't say speed up when I really just mean it's going fast. I can't say turn it down when I really mean change the pitch, right? I have to really say exactly what I can't say current and voltage interchangeably. Those are two different things, even though a lot of us we do when we're just talking. But all of the, you know, that training and then, you know, writing labs and making sure I'm understood, because that's one of the things you have to do in physics. You have to write your lab as if it could be replicated, you know, for someone else to replicate and get a close enough result, like, because you know you're never going to get the exact same thing. And the way to do that, you need clear communication. So it's all been training. It's all been training. You know, the feedback I get from my blog, the feedback in school, and then in person, doing all the tutoring in person. I mean, you want to talk about an experience, a tangential experience that had a huge impact on my ability to write, is making kids who are not necessarily interested in the subject excel at it, because I was damn good. I mean, I don't think I'm great at a lot of things, but being patient and getting a person to understand something that's complicated, if I understand it, is something I did great. And that all comes back and it just continues to make you a better writer.
So yeah, that's interesting you say that, because you know that's persuasion, right? Taking a kid who doesn't necessarily want to learn something because he's doing it.
That's true.
Your parents, I mean, his parents or her parents hired you, right? I mean, they're not spending their money on it. So, like, what do you think you did that was persuasive in that kind of environment where somebody doesn't really want to learn? What are some persuasion tips, since this is persuasion by the pint?
Well, for starters, you have to realize something. When you're good at a thing, you tend to enjoy it more. When you understand it, you tend to enjoy it more. A lot of our apprehension about anything comes from either us just not knowing and not being naturally curious and motivated to be curious about it, or because it's too the people tasked with explaining it to us did a terrible job at that. And so we're just left going, oh, I don't get it, right? I mean, that was my issue. I write about this on my site. I failed math in high school. I knew I couldn't do it. But one of the reasons I couldn't do it is because I was not interested, and I thought I had poor instruction. So what I made sure I did was we focused on little wins. If I could, you didn't have to come right out the gate understanding. For example, let's you didn't have to come out the gate understanding energy, right? But you had to know that when things move, that probably requires something to make it move, right? Mm-hmm. And once you kind of see the relationship, and I get you to solve a few problems, and I explain these things really simply, like, oh, you just plug this in, get that, you get a result, you kind of get more motivated. And then also, I like to step away from the rigid curriculum that a lot of the places are on, and introduce other more interesting ways to describe these I think awesome phenomena. But I think the school sometimes does a really poor job, because the school is designed to mass educate, mm-hmm. which, whether you agree with learning styles or not, one thing we can all agree with is that there are definitely different speeds of learning. And if someone falls behind, they tend to think, because that's what kids do, they tend to think they're no good. And then that starts a chain reaction. So what we got to do is make it. We got to make something about it enjoyable, and a lot of times that's just removing an unenjoyable part. I had one kid; she got put into the wrong level class, and she was just stuck. And I was like, okay, it's not that complicated. Let's figure out, for example, how to add vectors. And once you get that, a lot of these other problems should make sense, because that's what a lot of physics is: adding two things moving at two different speeds, going in two different directions, and you can't just add them. There's a procedure. But they do a poor job a lot of times explaining why that procedure makes sense. So I just made sure she understood that. And then she goes, oh, it's not so spooky now. Now I've got you. Now I can take you to a more complicated problem, because you're not going to feel broken down in these little steps. I mean, I think that's how we get better at everything. We learn the little parts first. And then once we get that, they come together and we're like, oh, okay, now I can think about a more interesting or more complicated application of this basic thing. But now that I know this basic thing, I don't feel so intimidated. So from a persuasive standpoint, you have to make a person believe anything is possible. And if they believe that, they'll follow you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually wrote down, while you were talking, I wrote down persuasion is personal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about that a couple episodes ago, Jonathan, mm-hmm. and really good writing feels one-to-one, not one-to-many.
Which is what they teach us, and I teach as a result, is, your writing may be read by who knows how many people. Mm-hmm. But you need to write it as if you have one person in mind. And that mm-hmm. tends to chop away a lot of extraneous words and superfluous statements and get you right to the point. Get your mind right in. And they go, you know what? I felt like he was talking and speaking to me. You ever seen that meme where somebody says something and it goes, that motherfucker's spitting? Like, that's how you should have people feel when you read your writing. And the only way to do that, like, you people think you have to write to everyone. No, it's counterintuitive. You got to write to one person.
Well, the copy on your book, and I love it because it's simple. I mean, some of your bullets, like, because you do things in first person, like some of your bullets, because I'm reading on your page for engagement is new cocaine, which, I dropped $50 on that thing today. So I know it's going to be good because I'm just reading some of the copy. But it says, so you go through, I don't follow for follow. I don't pay for advertisement. I don't have a blue check mark. I don't ask for followers, simple stuff like that. It's like,
right.
Okay. Like, just straight to the point, I don't have to do any of this stuff. And so to me, that's persuasive in the fact that you're saying, I'm not doing any of this stuff, and it's just plain and simple.
And I'm demonstrating one of the frustrations, right?
Yeah.
If because I never formally studied copy. What I did was understand people, and I guess that's the same. To understand people while learning how to write.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think a person has to realize, if you want someone to take action, you need one of two things, preferably both, to occur. You need to either have them running away from something painful or running towards something pleasurable, right? And but at the end of the day, because man, I wish I could remember this. A loss aversion, right? Because a loss aversion, we tend to assign more weight to a loss, even if it is equal to a gain, right? You know, losing $2 feels a hell of a lot worse than earning $2 in the other direction, though.
Right.
So, it's smart to start with the problem to make a person think about what's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, where their inadequacy is. And then to a personal point, when regards to the engagement copy, well, yeah, you know, well, what's the struggle? Well, I know the struggle, not because, well, one, I went through it, but because I think about what people reach out to me about. You know, it's like, oh, I can't grow because I haven't paid for your retweets. I can't grow, you know, because no one's giving me a shout out. No one's paying attention. It's okay, man. I got you. I know exactly what that's like. Not only that, but I'm gonna show you how to do it better.
Right.
You know, you're watching everyone else do it this way. We're gonna do it this way. And then you read. I got the testimonials where people are talking about it. And you know what's cool? One of the things I had to learn, man. Look, no one's perfect, right? We testimonials. If you get the best testimonial is an unsolicited testimonial. like when someone just writes you, I've had to get myself in the habit, like now going, you know, grabbing a screenshot, popping it. I got a file on my computer now, testimonials, and then I have it broken up by whichever someone writes. And whenever I get a great one, I just try and pop it up there because that goes so far.
Oh, absolutely. That's more authentic. I mean, yeah, you slap up like a text or somebody messages you, you screenshot that and throw it up there on the page.
Yeah, you know, I always ask, you know, can I use it? And they're like, yeah, man, you great. You kidding? I hope you use it. Yeah. And that's a good sign when people are enthusiastic. When they want to help you go far, they want to help you make more money. They're not going to see a dime. They're not even asking for an affiliate link. That's when you know you've done a good job. So like at the end, you know, it's funny. I had this idea for the book, and I didn't write it for so long. It was just other things, and then I was like, oh man, I owed somebody something. So a partner, I was like, you know what? I'll put this book together and we'll have a sale. Wrote that thing. I think I feel like I did it in 2 weeks ish.
Yeah.
Right. And you know, then I, you know, paid for many rounds of editing because that makes a difference and helps.
Sure.
In polishing. But the idea was always there for it. And thinking about some of the issues that people have with Twitter and growing in general, because then what's happened is people go, okay, I've been using it for this and I've been using it for that, not on Twitter. So now I'm like, man, I pigeonhole myself, but I've you know come up with a solution to that, and I hope it goes well.
So I know it's this book focuses mostly on Twitter, but I mean, most of it sounds like, you know, reading your copy, a lot of this could be like any social media platform. I mean, Twitter's a big one because everybody's on there, and but you know, you talk about being polarizing without, you know, trolling people, you know, being controversial, but also, you know, being, you know, not to the point where it's, you know how Twitter is. I mean, you can get in a cesspool.
Yeah, you wake up one day and you're like, man, I look, a significant portion of my income is either directly from Twitter or as a result of spreading on Twitter. So I got my one suspension, and I said, you know what? Whatever game they're playing, they have devalued the black card. So we're not gonna play that anymore.
Sure.
And I remember the exact funny story. People were just bugging me. I gave a speech out in Denver, not Denver, Boulder, right? Gave a speech out there in tech conference, all about getting over your fears, man. Had people fired up. It was great. And then somebody that had a beef with the program organizer, they were like, oh, I can't believe he invited a red pillar, right? So right about the red pill sometimes. And so I'm just going like because I understand how to kind of play the controversy. It's a dangerous fire to play with, but if you can harness it, man, you can heat your home. Yeah. Well, it burned my home down eventually. I was gaining followers, had the best sales ever in my book, and so I'm just milking this, because at this point, now I'm stoking the fire. Now I don't want them to go away, right? That same week, Wonder Woman came out, and I was and I really wanted to go see Wonder Woman. I was just excited in general, so I wanted to go see Wonder Woman. And before I went to go see it, I sent out a tweet. I tagged two of the people that were bugging me. These two women. I said, "Hey, I'm going to go see Wonder Woman." What my pink pussy hat on back when those were big. I said, does that make me a good feminist? Left it alone. Little did I know, man, they don't play fair, man. It's not a game. Every single thing I put out, they reported. None of it stuck because I don't play. That's the tweet. Yeah. I went to open my Twitter the next morning, and when you get a suspension, you go to open Twitter and then it flashes to another screen and it's like, this tweet has been shown to be in violation of yada 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 yada. Yeah. I got a 12-hour ban, and it didn't start until I deleted the tweet.
Oh wow.
And I was like, you know what? That's enough for me. Now I had 13,000 followers at that point. I mean, some guys want to play the game, but I'm like, I'm not so attached that I need to voice. Because one, that's not even me. I mean, part of it's me. Like I have fun, but I try to play the game. Yeah. Well, and I think I play it because I haven't been suspended since. Not even close.
And you're up to what now? How many followers?
124,000.
Yeah. So, all organic.
All organic. Well, okay. I got to be fair. It's like 98% organic. Good enough for me. Happened, right? But back in May 2018, man, we don't know what was going on, but all of a sudden, man, they were slowing accounts down. It was crazy. I gained on average up to that point, not even on average, probably on average like 2,500, but every month consecutively, at least 2,000 followers. With some months, 3,000 or 4,000 followers. In May, I gained 500. In June, I gained 16. I'm freaking out. I'm like, what is wrong? Because it was such an anomaly. So I did all this research. I found out that Twitter sets you up and tags you based on what they think you're interested in, and then it shows you that stuff. And this is how I learned how the algorithm works and everything. I mean, I really did a lot of digging. One of the things I found though is that money talks. If they have this program where they just randomly grab 10 tweets and promote them for $99 a month. And ever since I enrolled in that program, once you unenroll, you can't ever enroll in it again. So I'm like, these clever motherfuckers, man. Yeah. But ever since I enrolled in that, I have not ever been throttled. So, wow. But sometimes, but most of them, I can see the stats. I mean, we're talking maybe an additional 200 followers per month as a result of it.
But if it keeps you in their good graces, I mean, that's
right. If you're telling me $100 a month to make sure that they give me a little more leeway. And,
right.
So that's cool by me. Look, I have no problem playing the game because that's all it is. And I'm not going to lose because I've been on the losing end of the game before.
Sure.
And this side of the game is way better. Like I like eating steak, man. Like whenever I want, that side of the game is nice.
Yeah. One thing we've learned, social media is not a level playing field. So if you spend money, you're going to get favorability from the big, the social media platform.
As you should. I mean, it's their platform. They invested the money to create it. I mean, they took the risks to create it. I mean, they should be able to.
Look, I will never be the guy, bitching about censorship or anything like that, because at the end of the day, until the U.S. government says otherwise,
Yeah.
This is a public platform. It's like getting kicked out of a casino if they catch you counting cards. Right? It's not illegal. You just can't do it here. You got to leave. Same idea to me. But once you get the game, man, woo, it is a very profitable game to play because and it's accessible to anyone, which is kind of what I wanted my books to show without kind of saying buy my books and make money. Like I really hate that pitch. So I want to stay away from it.
So let's give people like a little sneak peek of say maybe three ideas from the book that whet their appetite a little bit. Make them want it. Make them really want it. Like sell the sizzle.
Sell the sizzle, and then when you're like, this is one of the best steaks ever.
Here's one. I'm going to read one of your bullets. I want you to expound on this.
Okay.
How to make any topic highly engaging and addictive. Since we're using that word addictive, I mean,
so here's what I found, man. Look, one thing that's true and has always been true, and now it's just Twitter as opposed to the television or print, is that if it bleeds, it leads. Negativity is always going to be a big thing. But when people think about negativity, they always think about things to get them down, and it's not that simple. Negativity is also just negation. I can tell you, for example, it's better to not eat sugar than it's better to eat carbs. One of those sentences is it's better to not eat sugar as opposed to it's better to eat protein, right? Mm-hmm. One of those sentences is just a lot more engaging than the other one. It's don't eat sugar. Mm-hmm. And it's just because I started out with a do not. Mm-hmm. And that is a basic idea of negation. And I teach how to integrate negation into all levels of your writing. It's better to tell people what not to do because people are much more motivated to avoid pain. It's better to tell people what not to do than what to do. Better to imply negative consequences than outright tell you about the positive, benefits of taking an action. So that's how we can make anything, well, at least more engaging. I mean, some shit is boring. You can talk about Magic the Gathering. I got nothing for you, right? but even then, one of my favorite tweets is, one thing I learned about from Magic the Gathering is that no matter how many lands you tap, the race card is still hard to play. Nerds will get that one, but no, seriously, the negation and negativity. That's a big thing for making anything more engaging.
Yeah, I did some writing for Mark and Angel Hack Life and big personal development blog. And I noticed all their blog post titles are negative and kind of sad actually.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Look, that is just how we're designed.
Yeah, and they're like one of the top 10 personal development blogs out there. And if you look at their stuff, it's the same way. But they always turn it during the post. Right. And tell you what to do. Because you don't want to leave people in that state if you're a personal development blog, right? So, or you get them to buy the book that has the answer as well.
And the difference between a blog and a Twitter is that a blog, has, in theory, infinite words to work with. But
800 to 1,200 probably, yeah.
Yeah. To a Twitter post, you got 280, spaces, not even words to work with. So 280 character spaces to work with. Do with it what you will. And I hope you add some negativity in because that's going to show you how to get things done. Or rather, it's definitely gonna make people engage, argue back, all types of things. The algorithm loves when people interact with your stuff. Right.
Yeah, because it's a social platform, so they want the conversation. All right, so that's one. Be negative.
Be negative. Yeah.
Be negative.
So what's number 2? What's another tip?
Another tip is if you can. Let me see. Negation. This is not the other one. Negativity. Right. Parallelism and anaphora. Right. And we were taught that in school at some point, right? Because one of the things I'll tell people is that all I did was take a lot of the grammar you hated and I made it interesting and giving you a way to practice it via Twitter. But parallelism and anaphora, all right? And now parallelism is when you take when you write a sentence out or you write 2 sentences out, and they have a similar structure. For example, I cannot think off the top of my head right now because I'm always ready. But anaphora is a lot easier because anaphora is very similar to alliteration. In the Peter Piper picks and peppers, right? It all starts with the same sound at the beginning, P, right? Anaphora is a similar idea where all your sentences kind of start with the same word.
Well, like here's on your sales page for the Twitter bundle, it says same thing as Jonathan Ritter. I don't have any followers on social media. I don't have any traffic. I don't even have a website. I don't have any subscribers. It's got that same rhythm at the front that I don't have any whatever.
Yeah, right. So I'm doing that right there on the page.
Yeah.
That is not an accident. That's just, it ends up working. And when people do that, and you see it all the time in copy, but I don't think people know what it's called. And all I did was give it a name.
Yeah.
Or rather use its proper name. I didn't create the name. I couldn't, I just couldn't let that go. So I had to like look up because I have examples in my thing of how it works. Parallelism. Here we go. And the first tweet all right. So one of my favorite tweets again. Like when focused on the outcome, progress feels logarithmically limited. When focused on the process, progress, growth occurs exponentially. When focused on X, Y occurs. And then the next sentence, when focused on, Z, W occurs. But there's the when something. So it's a parallel structure.
Sure.
Right.
So that tends to be really, that really catches people. A lot of times, the people have described me as a fortune cookie, and I'm like, oh man, I'm just all I figured out is kind of what these things sound like. Another one, control over self is the only control that matters. Control over self is the only control there is. Okay, so now we have anaphora, right? Control over self, right? At the beginning. And then I changed the ending. It's the only thing that matters, the only thing there is.
Yeah, I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on there, right? You got juxtaposition because you're comparing two things, right? You got compare and contrast, basically. You've got just an audible rhythm because you're using the same words. Yeah. You've got the parallelism. So there's a lot going in there, and I write copy for a living, among other things. But this
is cool, man, because you guys are like pros, I would worry if you were like, yeah, man, this guy's kind of full of it. But
no, this is stuff that works, and especially like when you do threes, it does something. When people hear the same phrase, like especially the third thing, the brain's like, oh, this must be important because this is the third time he said it.
Yeah.
Right? So it like wakes your brain up. It's like, that's why you do points in 3 when you do speeches or, other things. But even like this, where you're doing quick one after the other, those threes really matter. And the final thing is it's hypnotic. Yeah. Like you're almost putting people into a trance because it's that rhythm. It's the same sounds. It's very soothing to the ear,
right?
Almost like music. And it creates this like hypnotic trance.
Yeah, it's really I was trying to figure out when I was creating the chapters and I got to this section. It originally wasn't like an anaphora. I mean, I think it was repetition or something, and that just didn't seem right. I was like, there's got to be a word for this. So I remember I found I just typed in stylistic devices and I just read through, and it was like an example where everyone, I said, that's it. That's the one. And now we have a name for it, right? Yeah, exactly. All right, now I have a name for it.
Yeah. And like I said, it can come off a little, it seems too simple, or some people will think it sounds cheesy or, like a fortune cookie. But the fact is, man, this stuff works. The simplicity of it, it's like a earworm. It just gets in your head.
You know what writing copy is like to me sometimes? Writing copy is like finding out that Santa's not real. Because you grow up, when you first come into this space of, making money online, or making money with writing. You have these ideas about what will work and how you want to do it, and you look at all the other guys doing it, and you're like, that's cheesy. I'm not going to do it that way. I'm going to do it my way. And let me tell you, my heart broke when I saw how well FOMO worked. And I said, you motherfuckers are telling me you've been watching me promote this for 6 days and 12 hours. And all of a sudden you got all the money. All of you just happen to get all the money for this product in the last 12 hours. Almost twice as much as, or more than twice as much as the rest combined.
Easy. Yeah.
And I just, and when you see it, your heart breaks, because now you got to make a decision. You got to go, am I really better than everybody else?
Yeah.
Or do I want to starve? Like, and you make the decision. You're not better than everybody else. You jump right on that ship.
Yeah, it's crazy, like closing the cart and that kind of stuff. Like it feels so just like cheesy, especially digital products. It's like,
and I'm like exactly, like I can open this whenever I want. Like, you realize that, but it still works. Matter. It still works, and so you just instead of complaining about it, you just wipe your tears of innocence away, and you come back to the game renewed and
with your dollar bills. Just wipe the tears with your dollar bills.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Notice with this book that you didn't publish this, because you've written a number of other books that we haven't even talked about, and you've got some bestsellers. You got a few there on Amazon, but I noticed you didn't sell this one on Amazon.
Right.
And to me, that's a lesson of itself, because that made it, to me, it's more attractive, because I was like, I want to spend $50 because, because I can't get it anywhere else, and it's not on Amazon. It feels.
I give you guys my basic business model, because I have I think a bit of a disparate skill stack. On the one end, I deal a lot with people who are struggling with addiction.
Yeah,
guys who are in hard places trying to improve their life and work those skills out. On to a lesser extent, I suppose you want to just call this general self-development.
Mm-hmm.
And for the general self-development stuff, I'm not really concerned about prices so much as I'm about impact, right?
Right. Yep.
And Amazon is in the top 3 search engines behind with Google and Yahoo. Google and YouTube.
Yep.
So I'm like, okay, it's just more sensible to put a book that is around self-development, draw those people in. It makes me easier to find. It builds my profile, and it also allows people to get some real life game in general, so they can get to a starting point, for cheap. But when it comes to the skills, when we start talking about learning how to write, learn how to sell, any type of marketing, you're gonna pay. You're gonna pay a lot. Because not only did I build up, one of the things I think sets me apart is not only did I build the skills up and I can demonstrate them. I'm a walking billboard for them in the success of my books and the success of my website and the success of my social media and how much that's growing and how much these products sell on their own. And all of this stuff is easily verifiable. So I'm like, you're going to pay to learn from me. I'm not saying you got to learn from me. There's tons of people but if you want to learn from me, it's going to cost you.
People are willing to pay because that perceived value, perceived value is like, you're not on Amazon, and I'm going to, because in my mind, the perception is that, Sean and I we all buy a bunch of Kindle books, and sometimes we never get to them, but a book like this, that's digital, that you can't get on Amazon, it kind of moves to the top of the list as to, priority in terms of I need to read this,
One of the things I read a long time ago, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is that when the more technical your skill is, the more you can charge away from mainstream distribution channels for it. Like and then couple that with the demand, because like at this point, I'm not saying like I'm an Amazon logo, but I am a brand, and I'm a brand with a lot of credibility in my person. So I can go, okay, here's the thing, because it was one of the things I learned when because I self-fashion internship, working with other people on promoting their stuff via affiliate marketing. And one of the things I learned is that people, after a certain price point, they will Google, they will look and see who you are, what other people have to say about you. Fortunately, when you type my name into the internet, nothing but good shit comes up. Like so I can, that ain't been the case. I've worked with some guys where I'm sitting there in the DMs, actively working against something that somebody wrote wild, and then so I said, you know what, never going to be me, and that's been kind of my motto. And because I've taken that, because I've managed my online presence so meticulously, I can afford to charge, and realistically, like based on everything I've learned and observed, I'm undercharging. I'm undercharging because I've charged more, and it's so but 50's comfortable for what I'm doing right now.
No. Yeah, I think it's good. I like your approach. The fact that some people you refer to it like the shotgun rifle approach, where you like put out like you said earlier, you put out your general stuff on Amazon, and it kind of gets people in the funnel, like to learn more about you.
Yeah.
And then they come to your website, and then they like, after they've learned about you, then you're like, okay, if you want the more specific stuff that I can help you and show you what I'm doing, that's not going to be over here where you can get it anywhere. I mean, you got to go through my funnel, and it's going to cost you.
Yeah. And it's nice. It really works out. I mean, the downside why I think a lot of guys don't do it this way is it takes time. And I've been writing my someone had people ask the funniest questions, man. I had someone ask me, how did you get a Wikipedia page? And I'm like, from fighting, man, from fighting for 12 years and writing 2 books.
Yeah,
that's how it happened. And then I just got verified on Instagram, which is kind of cool. Once that I was on Twitter, then I got to change my copy.
Awesome.
But some guy wrote any tips, and I'm like, what you mean any tips, man? Like life, go live a life and go do something. Those are the tips. And then if you want that, I'm like, but it just takes time. It takes time, and I can't. I'm not gonna like sit here and pretend that anyone can become like me or you or whatever. But you become, as good as you can be, and then your thing, and that always works out better than not doing that.
Yep, absolutely, no doubt. Man, we've flown through an hour here, so.
And you didn't even hit me with the third part, man.
I know,
I got for that third part. I got one that I'm going to pull, because this is like really intriguing. I can't let you go until I get this. I want to get this kind of sneak peek from your book.
Okay.
On Twitter, but it talks about make people feel like they're part of a special tribe.
Yeah.
And for getting massive retweets. So I want to hear a little bit about that, because I want to kind of get people like thirsty or hungry for this book, because I'm gonna start digging into it over the weekend.
But
give us a snippet here.
So one of the things I tell people to do is you got to be careful with this, and I'm just letting you know you got to be careful. You want to speak to, we were talking about, you write to one person, but you got to also remember and be realistic that one person is representative of many people. Some of them who strongly identify with what you're going to be talking about. Some people who are just like on the fringe and kind of identify, and then all levels in between. Yeah. But when you write to something specific, that is powerful. That works. Some type of shared experience. People getting laid off during the pandemic, college graduates dealing with crazy tuition, writing about that. Pretty much writing about these common experiences that people go through. But even more powerful than that is if you can indirectly because you can't do it directly. That is against terms of services. You can't be calling out. Well, you can't call out a group based on innate quality, is what I say.
Yeah.
But if you can somehow attack another group, that signals two things. One, it's negative, and the other, it signals to the other side that you might be part of that group, even if you are part of that group, right? For example, one of the things, one of my most popular tweets: men aren't trash, women aren't trash. You're just a low quality human being, and like attracts like, right? Or birds of a feather flock together is what I said.
Sure, yeah.
And what does that do?
Oh yeah,
that makes people, anyone who's ever uttered the phrase "men are trash" to a bunch of women, right? That gets them all up in arms. Then you're gonna have them retweeting you largely in disagreement. Then there's gonna be people in happy relationships on the other side. They're gonna, engage with you and retweet the show. Yeah, this motherfucker spitting, that kind of thing.
Yeah. He's talking to me. He's talking.
and also people, who just in general agree. Anything, I talked about. Now I'm actually like looking at my book because those are the examples I used for writing. But the greatest hustle of our generation is college education. It's managed to increase in cost while decreasing in value. That speaks to that speaks to a large generation's experience of college. So right, it doesn't have to be that complicated. But now what I did was I made sure though that I speak of it as a group.
Yeah,
I didn't mention higher education. That's not. Well, that gets into another principle that I talk about in the additions to the course. But when you can figure out, kind of whatever try. I had one. This tweet is not in the book, but I always think about it because it was a thought, and it stuck with me. It was like, the generation that saw the greatest amount of technological and social progress was born from 1982 to 1993, right? It wasn't that arbitrary, but it was kind of that 11-year gap, and that got so much engagement because people were like, "You're just saying that because you're born in that generation," and people misinterpreting on, thinking I'm being ageist and hating old people. All kinds of things get generated when you do this, but the whole idea, the best way to make get yourself as part of a group is to attack another group, but don't attack a group based on innate. I say the best way to avoid, don't do innate characteristics. Nothing on race, nothing on gender, nothing on sexuality. You avoid those three things, you'll be pretty good. Basically, stupid politics.
So like worldview.
Yes, views, things that are mutable.
Right. And don't get specific. Leave it open to people's own interpretation. So
big on that. I'm actually working on my next course, wordplay for fun and profit. And the whole idea there is, there are a lot of things that I don't cover in my Twitter courses that I've learned since, or things that I knew and I wasn't quite sure how to discuss, teach, talk about it, and I figured out how. And one of the biggest ideas, this is not in the book, so this is like people watching the show exclusive, is that implication is so much more powerful than explication. If you can, inception is just great. If you can get a person to reach conclusions that you would like them to reach without telling them what you want them to think, it's just so much more powerful. I don't have to tell you, for example, I don't need to tell you don't date trashy people, right? I can just tell you, hey, have some standards for who you Netflix and chill with, or something like that. Or rather, one of the things I said is, if you Netflix and chill, don't complain about what the cat drags in. Right? Now, I'm not telling you to up your dating game. I'm not telling you that directly. I'm implying that is a low-level move, and you should expect low-level results and low-quality people if you play that game. Right, and now people, and when you implicate, that leaves room for discussion, debate,
sure,
or engagement. That's one of the reasons why it works so well.
Awesome.
And we haven't even we didn't even get into like why this stuff is great for the algorithm. And I learned a lot about Twitter's algorithm
when they're gonna have to pay for that.
Yeah, man, exactly. Right. I actually wrote some of that in one of my articles. I write about my experience figuring out what exactly what they mean when they say reverse chronological, and why Twitter functions as kind of a real-time SEO engine. It really is more like SEO than it is than a chronological display.
So you've got not only a book, but you got actually a course, right? That you teach on that you go through that goes through Twitter. Is that right?
Yeah. So what happened is the book. So when I said I wrote engagement as part of what I owed somebody, I was partnering with a guy, and we actually had a whole course called Twitter Pimps. But I decided to break my section off, because his was all about selling. Mine was about what I'm passionate about, the writing.
Sure.
It just so happens that you got to sell to live, right? Yeah. So the engagement was that written thing. I said, I'll put this out. I know I've been taking a while. Let me put this out. We'll have a joint kind of sell with your God. And it was great. And it did. It was great. Mm-hmm. Paid for a trip to Canada. Well, to Quebec. I love Quebec City. If you ever get a chance to go, great place. Close to Europe you'll get without crossing the Atlantic Ocean. But I wrote that. But the main course was more about, different things. That, I go into more stylistic devices, how to structure the tweets, what else do I write in the structure, style? Oh, right. How to thread, whether you should thread or not, how to actually interpret the metrics and figure out how to know if you're growing or not, the impressions, all that good stuff, right? So I wrote engagement, and then I said, when I separated out my part, I need a name for it. So I called it the re-up, which, like, anybody who is from a disenfranchised youth understands a re-up is when you go and, get more dough for the spot. Right. So I said, that made a lot of sense. I got engaged with the new cocaine. And then the sequel, the re-up, right? The re-up, the next level of Twitter engagement. So
awesome.
That's I'll go into some more stuff, but even with those two things, and I think I break down a lot in there. There's just a lot more that I've learned since then that I'm really excited to put into play.
Sure.
And a lot about what I've learned has come from writing in general. What you quickly realize is that Twitter is just a microcosm of writing. You get 280 characters, and I'm an OG, man. I got my K. I call it earn your K when you have more than 10,000 followers, and they got to put the K at the end.
Oh yeah.
Remember? Yeah, I earned my K in the 140 character era. So I'm not too bad at this, and
sounds like I've done pretty well. Well, man, we got to have you back on. We're running a little over, but it was worth it, and we appreciate you coming on today and, man, sharing all about your background and all about yourself. And I would encourage people to find, if they want to learn more, they need to go to your website. It's edlatimore.com. And you can learn more. He's we should have mentioned this at the beginning, but you're a best-selling author. You can, one of your other books on Amazon, Not Caring What Other People Think is a Superpower. I love the title of that. Insights
that was the title that I got when I got that piece of advice from Victor. He was like, change this. He said, anything is better. Here, try this. Yeah. And it was one of my tweets. That's actually one of my tweets. He goes, anything is better. Try one of your tweets.
That's right.
Yeah. It's funny how some of the best stuff's just laying around that we don't even think about it, especially as writers, because we write so much stuff. But hey, Ed, if you could hang out in the green room for a second, I got something I want to share with you after we're done. We're gonna wrap up real quick, and then we'll come back to you.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks, Ed. We'll talk to you here in a minute. Thanks.
Awesome, man.
And that was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was worth it. We may just break this into a 2-part episode, but yeah. So it was fascinating, though. I would again mention all of our listeners. That's edlatimore.com. you can learn more about all of his stuff that we've mentioned today, if not more. And Sean, you got any comments?
No, go to the website and buy a bunch of stuff. Like, good stuff. And I like that it's a fresh perspective. Like, it's a little bit different perspective than maybe a lot of the people we like. This comes out of, I like that it really comes out of Ed's life. Like, this wasn't his first career. This is his second, third career. I love those kind of stories where people find writing and they're able to, and they lived a whole nother life. The best copywriters I know had another life before they started writing copy.
Absolutely.
And it makes a huge difference. I see a lot of writers who write, and this is kind of their first crack at it, because copywriting's become kind of a cool new thing to do as a biz op type thing, but they don't have the people experience to pull it off, you know? So yeah, I love that part of Ed's story in there. So yeah, that, and then just, watch the video. The video is good. I mean, if you're not a subscriber on YouTube or whatever, check out our YouTube channel, Persuasion by the Pint. You can also see the video over at persuasionbythepint.com.
And of course, everywhere. Facebook group. What's our Facebook group? Facebook.com/groups/
Persuasion by the Pint.
Persuasion by the Pint. There we go.
So,
all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next episode.